Yeah, it's quality stream is experiencing minor issues. Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's too bad. I don't think it. I will do that online. It says very good. Online, it says yeah, cool. It is live on well, not on LinkedIn. No, it's not ever going to be live on LinkedIn. Not for me, at least not until they like solidly say that I have it. But that is the stream on. Very good. Yep. Yep. Tab. Like. Yep. Oh boy. Yep. Tab. All right. Cool. Yep. Oh boy. Yep. Tab. All right. Cool. Yeah, it is week 7. Oh boy. Yep. Tab. Yeah, I just posted it. And I will post that same thing on the other. Nah, I'm not gonna do that. Oh, it's fine. Yeah, I have chat and YouTube, but it works a little bit differently. Since we're not actually streaming to LinkedIn. No, I can see it on YouTube, but it's not directly linked to LinkedIn. Yeah. Tyler Odenthal, and I'm the head of engineering. Yeah, sounds good. I'll just start sharing my screen then. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take us through the process of doing the full automation process of getting a lead, going all the way down to looking at the dashboard. It's going to take about, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes to do the whole process, but a lot of these tasks would take a lot longer to do by hand. So let's start it off with calling the LinkedIn UI flow. What that's going to do is going to ask for a name. I can use anyone's name, but I'm going to search myself just for security purposes. I don't want to get in trouble by searching other people at the moment and showing it to the world. So I'm just going to do myself. And what that's going to do is it's going to tell Power Virtual Agents to open up a remote server using Power Automate. And this is run on Selenium WebDriver. It opens up a Chrome extension, Chrome browser, and then it logs into for me. Once when it's logged into LinkedIn, it's going to go to Google. And once when it gets to Google, it's going to search for me or whoever you want to search for on LinkedIn. And it's going to find my profile. Once when it gets here, it's going to do the CRM process. It's going to get all of the information that it possibly can get off of LinkedIn. It's going to store that inside of the PVA ecosystem and Power Automate ecosystem. And then it's going to bring all of that back to the Power Virtual Agent. And it's going to give me a little report. But it's not only going to just give me the report in this bot, it's also going to do a lot of other automated processes on the back end. It's going to send a report to a channel in the Teams section of Microsoft Teams. So the rest of my team can also see what I just did. So here's the report that it personally gives me. I can see information about myself. Cool. I'm up by like 30 connections since yesterday, which is cool. But what it also did is it sent this report to this channel. So essentially, if you have people looking for leads coming in, this is where they'll find it. It also added this lead to a backend database, and you can see that I am right here. So I'm just going to change this sent variable to not sent, and we're going to watch how this changes over time using the Power Virtual Agent and Power Automate. So this is what it just got off LinkedIn from me. It sent it to this Google spreadsheet. This will be important for a little. So I want to send an email to essentially myself. So I'm going to send the intro email to myself based on this lead that I just got. And I'm going to send it from the Tyler@chatmode.io email, which is my own email. I'm going to send it to Tyler@chatworks.co, which is the lead that we just generated right here. So we do that. And it's gonna, I believe, respond with a successful message once when it sends out that. So cool. It says that I was able to send an email to Tyler@chatworks from message. So let's go check on that real quick. Which window has it? The window tab. So I'm gonna make a window that has it. Cool. This is not the right email, but this is the right email. Just log in. Cool. So this is the email that I just sent from the bot from Microsoft Teams. It's not really set up to generate leads at the moment, but because it's in template form. But what it sent was an attachment of a data sheet that we currently provide for the company and the test scheduling system, which is Calendly. And then once when you get into Calendly, so we're going to be sending out emails via the bot using this automated process and generating leads through the bot automatically in a very RPA-like manner. And the goal is for people to click this link. So this is the third step in the process of the RPA chain at the moment. We've scraped someone from LinkedIn, added that to our CRM and we've sent out an email. But now we are waiting for someone to schedule. So we're waiting for a lead to schedule an appointment with us to essentially further progress that CRM progression. So how they do that at the moment is scheduling through Calendly. And this is our chat mode Teams Calendly link. So I'm just going to pick a date, schedule something. I'm going to enter my name. I'm going to say Tyler Odenthal. I'm the email guy, so I'm going to say chatworks.co. And I'm going to say, it's asking me, what would I do if I had a virtual employee? I'd say I would use it to schedule this meeting. And then I'm going to use it for all the things right here because I want to talk about all these things. And it's going to go schedule a meeting onto our group calendar. So that's where it brings us back to Microsoft Teams ecosystem. So that scheduling process is kind of just a waiting game. But when that happens, it's going to trigger, see right here, this is our CRM section. This was the first step in the process. But what it triggered was chat mode emails and it triggered chat mode calendar. So let's go and see what happened. So this was triggered in the second stage of the process. And it says, I found this person in our CRM database. I got all their stuff. And I just wanted to notify you that I sent an email to this person. That's my face because I got it off a link. And then now we're at the third stage of the process, which is the Calendly link. And that just got notified and scheduled here. So Tyler Odenthal and chat mode team at essentially this time here, or even if you want to open the Outlook calendar and go see that, it's right here. So they want to schedule a meeting with virtually. Super cool. So that's awesome, but that's not end the line of this. If we go back to the CRM database, we can see that we've sent the email to them. It should actually be set to schedule. I don't know why I did it, but it should be set to schedule. I'm going to change that right now because this email set up a event. So in the last stage of the process, we go back to the section, and this is where all of our email leads. And you go to the email dashboard. This is the last stage of the process. This is the visual stage of the process. So where are our leads and efforts going in this RPA / conversational automation supply chain? Where are they going and how are they affecting our company? So you can see down here, we have a lot of leads that are under not sent. We have 7 under sent. And we're going to have one that status that says scheduled, which I just added to the supply chain at the moment. All of these essentially graphs here are important for tasks that the bot may want to do in the future or the bot may need currently. So you get all of not only your data, your employees get all this data from the bot. The bot can also reference all this data in a meaningful and resourceful way. And all those automated tasks, I believe, save about 15 minutes if you were to do things like perfect, like essentially scraping the LinkedIn perfectly, getting all the data, entering all that perfect, sending out an email. If all of those clicks and stuff were done by hand perfectly, instead of what you just saw communicating with the bot, this took about 30 seconds when you really figure out how you want to communicate with the bot. And then the UiPath stuff on the back end takes like 3 minutes, but you really don't have to be involved at that point. So you're saving like anywhere from a net of 10 minutes to 15 minutes when all of this gets done. The reporting to your teams, the integration with the Power BI dashboard stuff, and all the other stuff. And the Power BI dashboard just updated, so it's really cool. You now can see scheduled, right? So if I click the little scheduled, if I can click that tiny sliver, this will be the last thing that I share. If you click the scheduled, you can actually see in the company CRM tree map what company scheduled that. So chat mode scheduled that. So I now know as we build out this huge database of people, using RPA, I can uh, know which leads are automatically scheduling stuff with my company, and I can see which industry they're coming from as well. So this will later inform my ad spend behavior. It'll later inform all sorts of other stuff too, like how your messaging goes out. And honestly, your ad spend could be automated and tied to this as well. So this is just kind of the beginning of where we're at now. This is like two of my automation efforts. We're trying to coin the term conversational automation. So this is where it's at. So happy to share. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, but that was my good 10 to 15-minute pitch on conversational automation and what you can do with it today.
Tyler, I'm curious, what is sort of your ambition with like expanding that dashboard that we saw a little bit? Because I want to give people who might be watching a little bit of a taste on what like the next episode might have. But what are your thoughts on like how what other data points might be relevant in the near future?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of other business operations that we can automate in the future. Once we start generating uh, more lead data, essentially. Like right now, a lot of the efforts are targeting and stuff. But once when we start landing more and more clients and start building up a bigger infrastructure of needs, we could easily have like an HR dashboard. We could easily have a management dashboard, if you will. We can have we definitely will have an ad spend dashboard eventually, because all of these automated processes, essentially all that data that I'm collecting for CRM and lead generation and stuff, should be informing our ad spend and marketing behavior, because the leads that are converting are obviously our highest profit marginable leads at this point in time. So connecting those two operations is going to be a huge effort, and I think you can make all sorts of dashboards of data between pairing all the lead information and CRM information with conversational marketing efforts. You could also like do all sorts of crazy stuff with copywriting
Oh
with
yeah.
bots. So like you could do sentiment analysis and essentially like score copywriting. You could have all the copywriting process essentially be automated in your marketing effort too. So you know how I was sending out emails and I had like an option of 3 buttons, um, and I sent out one static template. But imagine like a layer after I say send out an email and click your email button. The emails are currently just you, me, and Chad.
Sure.
But the next layer will be a template button. So it'll be like, which email template do you want to send out?
Yeah.
So imagine all like stages of business being like modified by your bot. Um, so like if you're designing an ad for say, it's like I need to make an ad. You're like, okay, what do you want the header of the ad to be? I need it to be business, conversational automation, workplace, blah blah blah. And you'd be like, okay, what do you need the style to be? Be like business, and it just like automatically generates like the template for you because like it knows that you need a business picture, and it goes searches the web for like a business picture that fits your needs. That's free source, so you don't have to pay for it like on Plixels or something. So yeah, no, there's so many different things that I feel like I could build with this ecosystem using RPA. And yeah, there'll be more dashboards. I think,
Dashboard all the things, right?
yeah, I'll dashboard all the things. I'll have the chatbot do most of the
Nice.
grunt work type stuff. So like
Sure.
even making ads, right? Like ad process should not be as hard as
No. Oh,
um so like asking the bot to go get some pictures, right? Like it can go get some really high quality pictures and it can present maybe 5 or 6 of them. You just have to click a button. Like I like that one. And just like why does it have to be this hard where I have to like go to the web? Because it's a robotic process. I've made a lot of ads.
sure.
And you just like go to the same website, like look for a really, really long period of time through like this just search history, like this search tool, looking for the right word. And like it's just you're scraping a lot of data. And I think those scraping aspects of stuff can easily be managed by a bot. It should be managed by a bot because it takes up a lot of time to open up the website, type it in, bar, like actually look for the photo, like open up which one. Yeah, you lose a little bit of freedom, but you gain back a lot of time. And usually, I find like the best that for are like within the 10. I'll just be like, oh, like when I find the perfect search term for what I'm looking for, it'll be like the first 10 photos. Like, oh, one of these is gonna work. So like, why not just like, you know, just choose from one of those real quick instead of doing the whole effort. Um, and just use RPA. Use
Yeah.
RPA as
Sure, sure. No, this is going to get particularly exciting with marketing for sure because I feel like there's a weird like we've gone through a lot of like really cool use cases, but there's definitely like a lot of the thinking right now with the maturity model of conversational interfaces are still very much living in the world of like you're really only like you're getting a lot of notifications, but you don't have a lot of action items to do, right? And that's going to change. I think continuously, especially with everything that Microsoft's working on. I think it's going to change in like a massive way very very soon. And I'm super stoked to see what that transformation looks like. And on that note, I want to segue a little bit into talking about um, the concept of where chatbots and voice is like are as a whole right now and what that industry looks like. And let's like work backwards a little bit. Let's start where a lot of things are moving, and let's see how we can also lead up to some really awesome use cases because I think you and I, Tyler, both sort of compiled some really neat ways that chatbots are they're coming into the mainstream. They're changing a little bit where like they're living and stuff like that. So, and there's also some cool things we talk about cybersecurity, but to start with some really cool news on the chatbot end. So more than ever, I want to loop back to a topic we talked about a few weeks ago. Actually, last time I guess I was on this. We talked a little bit about how governments are utilizing chatbots, right, and how the CDC might be using it, and how Microsoft is contributing to like they're literally giving Q&A Maker and other tools, away kind of to nonprofits that are helping out, right? And so I think I don't believe it's a Microsoft bot, but it was, Utah has recently introduced a COVID-19 bot officially, which, they like all things aside, no matter how many cases your state has of COVID or your country, I mean, I think chatbots are going to be useful nonetheless. And it's particularly cool to see, that like it's becoming a state by state option, right? Rather than just like the West Coast gets their chatbot and the East Coast gets their chatbot or something like that, or the US just gets a centralized chatbot because when I think about it really in depth, things change, right? Like different states are reopening and trying out different social distancing features. I guess like it's really terrible how I'm not going to get into that, but it's definitely there's good and bad strategy to that. I'm not one to talk about it, but chatbots can at the very least mitigate opportunities for there to be an open and honest discussion about what kind of information is being spread around, right? Which is very key. And shout out to Amazon for the amazing integrations that they have with their voice interfaces, which like I think basically Alexa has a very good amount of information around what there's like what each state and what each country is going through right now. And they just did a really good, like the data is really presentable and it's really friendly. So I was afraid she was going to go off, but she didn't. So I'm really happy. I forgot to bump my Alexa before we started this. So um, on that note, Tyler, I'm curious to hear your opinions a little bit too. Where do you see the distribution of chatbots that are like helping save lives going? Like, what do you see, especially with like potential reopenings and people getting back to work and like there's a slow movement going up? Where do you see a lot of potential in where chatbots can be used?
Well, yeah, I think you hit on like a really interesting point with the distinction between like national bots and like distribution of like state organized bots. So like I really like the fact that you can have this segmentation of like information where like one state can spin up their own bot, like pretty much say what they want with their health department, and then like you have a national bot that can like segment the information pool from a different aspect.
Certainly.
Um, I think that's like something that uh, we were already doing to an extent on websites. Essentially, like every single health department in the United States, and probably around the world too. Like every single country has their own health department. They all have their own different website that has health information. I think chatbots is just like an extension of that. Um,
Mhm. Definitely.
so it's really
Definitely.
kind of cool to like see uh, how many efforts are being put into all of these bots
Mhm.
on different various levels. So um, I feel like you really have like a very good open source, like America like really prides themselves on have like freedom of speech. And I feel like chatbots in a weird way do actually allow for the freedom of speech because you can deploy them on various different organizational levels. And it seems to be working out pretty well. I haven't like seen one a bot where I think would like serve the biggest purpose in this current state that we're living in would be a hospital integration type chatbot. I don't see like
Right.
actual like if like CDC or like even another health organization came out and it's like, hey, you do the survey in this bot, we'll send it to hospital. Hospitals can learn better. Um, I don't see anyone taking that approach. I do like John Hopkins' approach, which they have an amazing COVID dashboard. So they're taking the informational approach of distributing information in a reliable and way. I think that website has like millions upon millions of views.
Sure.
It's great. But no, I think where conversational AI can definitely help is essentially combining these databases of conversational surveys and conversational Q&As to something that's proactive and something that's actually maybe more RPA type actionable tasks, right? Like instead of just distributing information and collecting information, actually make that information actionable.
Mhm.
So I haven't seen anyone really doing that yet. I hope that someone takes that initiative and tries to. I think that's more like the government's role to do that, to take that like information and go do something with it. So until someone really takes a stab at it, I really don't think it's a company that needs to take a stab at it. I think it's the government that really needs to do that. Send
Mm.
out these surveys and like collect the data and make actionable insights. But I don't think we have people who are tech savvy enough to actually implement those high level strategies at the moment. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Optimistically, in that case, I could see major companies giving the right resources to make people more tech savvy. Now, that is an investment, right? Because a lot of that doesn't necessarily have a return on investment immediately. Like having somebody from Facebook go and train people on what to do with Microsoft or not Microsoft Messenger, rather, data and everything, and get it back is not, maybe not an immediate priority, but I think it's certainly, I mean, for the safety of the world, it certainly should not be put by the wayside either. And I wanna give a shout out to a brand new player on the scene for COVID chatbots, which is Rakuten Viber, right? This is a massive company that nobody talks about. I'm almost bummed. Rakuten is a powerhouse, and they've been pumping out like really amazing products, and they own like so many different things as well under their brand now. And in particular, Viber is something that might not be a name that's thrown around a lot in the United States, although I certainly do know people who use it. But it's certainly something. It's huge in I believe the Middle East. It's quite major. Different parts of Eastern Europe, actually Europe in general, I think is a fairly interesting user of Viber. South America, I believe, is high on that list as well. So similar to WhatsApp, it sort of sizzles and has its like true fire outside of the states, but they just partnered with the World Health Organization on a chatbot, and I think that that's
that's a really big move because we've seen our Amazons, we've seen Google, we've seen IBM, we've seen Microsoft, we've seen a lot of key players in like the main, I don't know what we call them, right? The mafia, the tech company mafia, like all these top companies that hire the most people and whatever. But other like, I wouldn't be surprised if Alibaba comes out with something tomorrow, right? Or we see other companies that we haven't maybe heard too much from, but are going to suddenly start releasing their own resources that could take a fairly different approach to how they release conversational interfaces for public safety, right? So, the Viber chatbot in particular, I believe the cool part about it that I was reading is that it's really meant for beyond sharing just like information around like what's going on. It's actually meant to help like debunk myths that potentially are going around right now, right? Because symptom checkers are great, right? There's a lot of like there's symptom checkers, there's like state update, bots. There's a lot of these different things that are giving like pretty good opportunities for some actionable data for yourself and for your family and whoever needs it. But this is brand new. This is something that puts a little bit of a twist on the concept of like, hey, some of that information that you might be hearing from your favorite news outlets and from other sources, they might already be inaccurate by the end of the day, right? At the start of the day, you might hear one update about, there's this amazing treatment that can cure you, and by the end of the day, oh, it turns out it was a completely false placebo test, and a secondary result came out after the initial news broke, right? So
Hmm.
um, taking an angle right like that will be, I think it'll be part of the differentiating strategy that we could see really sort of take hold in like the future of not just like COVID bots, but like public safety and civic technology as a whole, right? Which is a not a new field by any means, but it's something that like if these interesting like not edge cases per se, but secondary use cases beyond just sending updates and beyond just like simple surveys start to sort of climb up, it gives more reasons for governments and organizations out there that are managing really important projects right now to have there's more incentive, right? Just the more use case, the more in depth the use case is, the more incentive there is to like really flesh it out. So yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or if you've been following like some other companies outside of the big whatever five six that are all.
Oh, yeah. No, I definitely do have thoughts on it. And I think I think every company will have a bot eventually. And we're all just trying to make one at the moment for COVID because it's the easiest one to make an actionable bot on because there's so much information out there. And like everyone wants that information. So like the most actionable thing to do is to make a knowledge base that people can access. And it's like, okay, well, we can't invent a search engine. Like we could, but we're not in the space to make a search engine.
Mhm.
So there's this new technology called a bot, and you can now you can make a conversational search engine essentially. Um, and that seems to be less intrusive or more innovative in a way to where you can deploy this in multiple locations and people are keen on the idea to do this. So I believe that yeah, every company should have a bot and will have a bot. Should they all have COVID bots? I don't necessarily know if that's the thing. I think they probably should be able to answer questions on COVID. But like I think right now we're making the bots. A lot of the big players are making the bots because it's a COVID bot, not because like conversational AI is like has this use case that they really buy into. They're just like, oh, okay, like I can get into the conversational AI space by making a COVID bot, making this big announcement, start collecting data. That's this is the big issue that I have with the thing, right? Like we're all going to be getting into conversational AI, which is great. Like we need to use conversational AI. It's technology. It's going to really help the world progress, humanity progress, be more productive. The issue is that you do have all these different points. So I feel like if you're a Microsoft employee, it is okay to use Microsoft bot to access your COVID information. But like other people outside your ecosystem, like why would they use Microsoft bot to get COVID information? Like it's a little bit weird in a sense. And then if you go down that rabbit hole, right? If Microsoft partners with the government and they start to make this more open source, um, you start to collect like public health records essentially, and then that becomes like issue long term, I feel, which then leads to like a company now out of public data, which I mean they already have to a sense, but they don't have it to a health record extent. Like, which I think quite there's some levels of information that are valuable, and then there's some levels that are. So I feel like that health record distinction should be left government implementation, so like health service stuff. Uh, I think it's really nice the World Health Organization, like CDC, allowed a open API survey type concept. But like now that I'm a little bit more experienced around the whole issue, I really think that like normal bots companies really shouldn't be running health surveys for the greater good, like amount of health data.
Right.
Because eventually you're gonna do something with that health data. Like if you don't have the great moral fortitude when you're starting out collecting that data, and if you don't know what you want to do in the future, it could be really potentially dangerous where you end up with that data. So there's like a lot of health regulations. Like, I feel like it's good to keep those health regulations. I feel like those are starting to get bent chatbots up, which is okay, but definitely a gray zone that's scary.
Yeah. Well, on that topic, I have a cool segue actually. You set it up pretty well for me to shoot into the hoop here. The concept of cybersecurity and chatbots is something that has been talked about pretty much twice. I'm like not really, but I've only heard those two things ever mentioned in my time in chatbots as something like literally just a couple times, and it's been mostly on the side of like how is your data secure in the back end, which is a great that's very important. But chatbots could do cybersecurity, right? This sounds like a headline that I'm making here, but Tyler, you had an interesting article that you shared with me actually that I was really fascinated by. So it's Microsoft and was it Intel, I believe?
Yeah, Microsoft and Intel.
Yeah, who are working on this Stamina, I believe it's called, right?
Yep.
Yeah, jump into that, share a little bit more about it, but I wanna touch on that a little bit. It's kind of a crazy concept.
Yeah, you want me to touch on it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally. So Stamina, what I believe they're doing is they're taking code via pattern matching or individual, uh, essentially character analysis. They're breaking that down into binary. So I don't know if they're doing it individual character by character inside of a code, or if they're doing it like a more complex way with machine learning. I believe it would probably be the machine learning way where they analyze one character and then they analyze 20 characters and then they make a pattern recognition based on the binary that they're seeing. But anyways, that's a high level. What they're doing is they're breaking down this one dimensional ones and zeros to a two-dimensional picture, which is just a bitmap. So what you see, like your monitor, that can be considered 2D. It is a bitmap. It's a pixel ratio. Everyone knows what 1080p is. 1080p is literally just a screen dimension. So they essentially break down code into a screen dimension picture. And then they analyze that picture to know if it contains malicious code. Because malicious code can only, well, unless you invent new types of functionality, malicious code is written in a very specific way to be malicious. Like there's a lot of deleting functions, there's looping functions, there's like automated watcher type functions where it needs to loop and like check in on your screen, like maybe take a photo every minute, right? Those types of functionalities can be analyzed by looking at the binary context of each character that's typed inside of that code. So essentially, it's really, really fast to break that down into binary and then upload that as a picture and then analyze that picture using machine learning rather than scraping through the whole like code using different machine learning techniques. Converting it to a picture is much faster rather than trying to scrape through the text and parse through it. They can just convert it to binary, switch it to an image, analyze that image, and then you have like a very complex machine learning algorithm that can detect malicious code. It's pretty mind-blowing, but it's partnering text analysis or binary conversion with vision AI. Super cool.
Sorry, I was muted there. So I think like this is really cool because I mean, for one, it's just a really cool application of machine learning, right? And AI. I'm a big fan of hearing about like, and I believe it was Microsoft's head of or director of like cybersecurity and threat analysis who said basically they're trying to move everything that they're doing into machine learning pattern recognition, right, for cybersecurity. So they're kind of like obviously it's Microsoft, so they've been working on these kind of projects for years, but now as the times change and as the technology matures, they're going to be riding that wave and building the future. So this partnership with Intel, for one, is probably really awesome. There's probably a hardware play in this too somewhere, right? And being able to have like a supercomputer and other like crazy things be able to rapidly process these images and get things to the right people. But on top of that, the reason we were even talking about this at all is the concept of basically telling a chatbot to be able to classify malware, right? Which is an insane IT use case, but it'd be pretty interesting, right? If you're working in a company where there's a lot of files going through and there's a lot of different things, rather than a human having to go and scrape and look through different things and having to like then convert it into an image or something, you could have a chatbot say, "Hey, take a look at this part of my code base, analyze it, and then bring me back all the images or help do the image like look it through the images and look through the sort of like classifications yourself, and then give me back a report." So
Mhm.
what do you see as the future of like conversational AI actually doing cybersecurity work for us now? It's like it's down the line maybe, but it's something that I could see a lot of value in.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not very far down the line since they made that algorithm. It's a matter of them connecting that algorithm to a API that people can openly access or pay for.
Mhm.
The Microsoft ecosystem already has like a ton of uh, cognitive services. They have one for sentiment analysis. They have like form document analysis. They have like a ton of machine learning models that you can already pay into or get free subscription buy into. So I could definitely see this one becoming a type of service that they provide. I can also just like get around it via if I just like am able to access their code base in some way, like train. Let's say I can just get access to it and I can start analyzing code and getting pictures myself, right? I can now train my model, my vision model, with the pictures that I get, knowing which ones are malicious, knowing that they are 99.1% accurate with their vision model. If I just use their code base, generate enough images, I can create my own image to code recognition model, which then I'll be able to tie into a RPA chatbot. So that's kind of what you were leading into.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, you can definitely be like, hey, uh, I need to make a GitHub like update. It's like, what repository do you want to? The testing repository. Okay, it's like upload your file. It's like, okay, I'm gonna upload like this JSON blob file.
yeah.
It has like some other dependencies that you also upload with it. Click enter, um, and then it'll send all those files to the malicious code Vision AI service, and essentially either it will convert those images to it'll convert those code bases into image, or you'll do that prior to sending it to this cognitive service, and then it'll give you a yay or nay, and then essentially the bot comes back and is like, hey, I proved those to be uploaded to GitHub because they have no malicious code, or it'll be like, hey, this file, yeah, screw you, like it's not good, like here's where it was bad. This pixel map shows that this line of code equals malicious code. It's connected to like a webhook that installs bad stuff. Like, don't do that. And then like maybe even it's like smarter, and like if you're an employee that does that often, like uh tracks it, right? Like get 3 strikes. Like, man, you were that's a little too much. Like you're definitely trying to upload malicious code. Like no one just like gets 3 strikes, right? Like
Exactly.
so yeah, like there's all sorts of stuff that you definitely start to implement when you start combining conversational AI with RPA, which becomes automated. And this is just one aspect of that.
Yeah. So Tyler, are you saying that, all things aside here, all the other complexities, that chatbots are potentially the future translation tool for cybersecurity experts, basically? Something that can take the data, turn it into like, I mean, you're getting to that. And I want to say like a bold statement here in saying that could chatbots be the translator between understanding what an AI might be trying to tell you, and actually presenting that data in a format that someone who's non-technical can understand, someone who is technical needs to understand very quickly, and can basically prevent things from happening before they happen. Right? Is this something you believe in?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly where I think it's heading, right? With all of the cards that so like I could do all of the automated processes on my own via text command to this bot, and I can show you guys absolutely nothing of it, right? I don't have to go generate that report in that Teams channel. I don't have to go say that I sent an email. I don't have to notify people that these things are happening on the back end. But
Yeah.
in doing that, in having the bots be able to do that, you have an increase in knowledge share, but also an increase in productivity. Because when things get notified in channels, you have actionable things that other people can do based off of that notification going out. So, yeah, I think bots in general will be just as important as your security engineers, just as important as like system architects. They're going to be like another employee, but they're going to be doing all the watching of stuff instead of doing all like the actual coding, the actual thought process manipulation. Like they're not going to be inventing anything. They're just going to be maintaining stuff and reporting stuff. So that's definitely where I see it. So like you shouldn't have to scrape through 200,000 lines of code to look for crappy malicious code. Like that's a really crappy job. And like you shouldn't have to always worry about like your security, like your databases being breached and like security stuff. There's a lot of companies that are like purely infotech, like purely like data security company. Like they
Absolutely.
specialize in sending out notifications when your data is breached. Like same thing with chatbots. You can do anything you want, essentially send people a notification based on any type of thing that you think of now. We're just currently talking about malicious code,
Yeah.
a malicious code reporting system. Like it doesn't exist, but with conversational automation, make it exist. So yeah, no, I definitely see stuff like that happening in the near future. Uh,
Yeah.
so
It's
yeah,
a crazy time to be in IT, right? I mean, in particular, especially since the world is moving more online and stuff. There's so many risks, and what's not bad about having an extra employee who can help you mitigate those risks, right? I really don't see, and that extra employee being someone who always responds, right? They're 24/7. Doesn't need a salary, really. Doesn't need like the whole, you know, setup. It doesn't need a desk. It doesn't need anything special other than the task at hand.
mhm,
And if people who do need to do a little bit more of the hands-on work need to focus more on that to make sure that their systems are secure forever and airtight, and that their credit cards don't get breached every other day, like there is no downside. And I think the only downside right now is that I think there's people who don't have the budgets to spend on creating some of the craziest cybersecurity solutions out there yet. And there's obviously machine learning has to evolve as well, so that we can use these third party libraries in a good fashion. But I think Microsoft's commitment to innovation, and I guess shout out to Intel as well on this. Their commitment to being able to dig into this a little bit is something that it's just the beginning, right? And I think that the Microsoft ecosystem has every opportunity to start integrating, like within the actual tools that you're using to do automation and RBA stuff. There's opportunities to work these things in natively, right? And have them be like little extensions that you can add, and suddenly the developer has full access. It's part of your pricing plan. It's part of whatever. And I think this is the main, with this kind of level of commitment. This is why Microsoft Teams right now has 75 million daily active users. So to nicely to swing that the next direction. Yeah, big news, right? 200 is like, what did I see? Like 220 million or something crazy like that, monthly actives. Almost like back in March, it was 44 million daily active users. And now this jump to 75 and consistently growing is crazy. I mean, obviously, you know, for the longest time, we've seen, your big enterprise companies, right? Alaska Airlines has been big on, flaunting their Microsoft Teams involvement, Accenture, multiple other consultancies as well, healthcare networks too. Everyone's been sort of talking about it, but the numbers have never really come out to show the true potential. So Yeah, 75 million. What does that number mean to you, Tyler? You got to tell me, man. I'm here preaching it, but
I think it just means that there's a lot of adoption of the technology. People being at home, they can't work in the office, or they can't. Uh, well, I mean, it really is like you need to have a virtual office space and either choose Slack, Google Meet, or Microsoft Teams. And it seems like Microsoft that this particular moment in time has the best offering, and a lot of people were already using them for email, so it was very easy for them to switch over to start using this for another communication type channel. What I do see is that a lot of people are struggling with how to set up this type of ecosystem. There's a lot of educational systems that are not as tech savvy, that haven't had to teach on in an online environment. Maybe these teachers are like in their mid to late 40s, like, or a lot of these teachers probably aren't like young teachers. They definitely don't use technology. They've been using projectors and like a clicker. Like that's all they've had to do, and they read books. Like I know personally like a couple of teachers that would definitely struggle teaching in this online environment. I can see that as I look at all the Facebook groups where there's a lot of people who are recently adopting this Microsoft Teams ecosystem. It's just struggling to figure it out. Doesn't mean that it's not the best solution. It's just that there's a lot of work cut out with this massive adoption. Um,
absolutely.
there's a lot of things to be built, so that's really great to hear. There's a lot of opportunity on the platform for this mass adoption. So yeah, it's crazy. I wasn't expecting a lot of the education systems to hop on board, but it seems like everyone around the world, education wise, literally hopped on the system. So I would assume that has a lot to do with why those numbers are going up.
Yeah. And I can't lie in saying that Microsoft has certainly done some really cool educational programs before, like giving services to schools and training teachers to work with those. Like, yeah, I know that exists. Now, my question is, were they expecting Microsoft Teams to be this next big platform? I don't know, right? Maybe they weren't. And so I'm definitely not seeing the resources out there yet for some of these. I won't call them like niche markets, but maybe more unexpected markets. Like I think I saw like was it like logistics? I think is adopting Microsoft Teams pretty fast. Education certainly, and there's like a list somewhere. I think like even from last year where there were some industries that were starting to adopt it that I didn't anticipate would adopt it at all. Right? That just I thought they wouldn't need it yet. And so you can only imagine right now like how many new industries are hopping on and new more niche markets are hopping on. And I wonder what Microsoft's play is next with because I don't think it's like the feature set, right? Like, I mean, if you want to like talk about this too for a second, Tyler, I think the education part, or education being not educational systems, but actually like Microsoft educating people to use their platform. I think that's like, I don't think the features are inherently difficult to understand after, after a few, like after one or two videos. It's that repeated use and that understanding of how you can extend it a little bit, right? So yeah, like, I don't know. What is your thought on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think they were really built out for specific use cases. Like they have if you look at their app store and like their essentially tab ecosystem at the moment, it's very geared towards Power BI, very geared towards like data and information centric. You can do shifts, is another one that they like highly promote. So essentially, you can schedule employees and timetables and stuff. So like HR type features, I believe, are kind of built in natively. They also have like a calendar type concept built in. So there's like some native office type environment stuff. But I think why uh, with the mass adoption of other industries like education, you now have a classroom who's trying to do their essentially discussion on Microsoft Teams or any of these video platforms, really, like where you have to see everyone, or you at least want your group to be able to see each other. So like that's why they recently rolled out the 3x3 square,
Yeah.
which is 9 people being able to talk on one screen, which is great because you can start to highlight some people in the discussion, switch them in and out. Like teacher can have her own panel and like drag and drop people in. That's great. That's a use case that I highly believe came from the education sector,
Oh, okay.
specifically because they were like, we're gonna have these uh, big meetings, and like having two people on a screen is like not enough. That's not, and me being able not to share my face and my screen at the same time also not enough. So like those features really came out, I believe, from, you look at the Facebook groups, all of the discussion around it was like literally 90% of it is education based. It's crazy. Like
That's wow.
I'm sure that all of the requests coming in and most of the updates, if you just take it from like an education perspective, you're like, oh, classrooms needed that. And I just don't think that Teams ecosystem was expecting that type of adoption, like you're saying, from this niche industry. They really built it out for like office cases and like managing employees, like even their assignment of tasks. Like they have a tasks thing, but it's more like employee centric. It's not like I'm scheduling, like I'm not giving this student a assignment where I can later grade it. Like that doesn't exist. Like no one's built that yet, to my knowledge, on the Microsoft Teams ecosystem. So like that's something that they're truly lacking as well. So like I don't know. I feel like it's just all of them are struggling with it. All these video platforms are struggling at to support their massive adoption. And what use cases do you need to provide that you didn't predict that you would need to provide as target? So
Yeah. And suddenly Google Meet is free, right? Google Meet was
yeah,
only for G Suite users. Suddenly that's free. Zoom and Slack are now going head to head on a chat platform kind of thing. Or well, Zoom has stated that I think they want to go more after Slack and less after Hangouts and Microsoft Teams. So that's new too. Obviously, Slack had a redesign that looks familiar to some people who might be avid Microsoft Team users. It's definitely more in the line of what it's different, but there's some similarities for sure that just have this new layout. And I'm sure people who are familiar with like the old days of HipChat and stuff, it's starting to look like some of even the older platforms that have existed long ago, like that were
yeah,
this in the beginning, right? Like now we're going back to a more traditional style rather than that, like what is it called, like the hyper, there's a word for like hypertexting, right? Like Slack was built to make people chat much faster, and now they're going back to like, actually we encourage you to think a little bit more before you type. And Microsoft Teams has been doing that since the day they launched, right? Because it's like each thing you type is a post, and if you post too much of it, it doesn't make sense. Like it needs to have threads. It pushes for discussion, and obviously the different features such as calendars and all that being integrated are just game changers, right?
Mhm.
We desperately need that. On that note, we are at the top of our hour time, so I want to make sure we close this out pretty well. But I think the most significant thing is that we talked about today is obviously the use case of the dashboard that you were showing off with a CRM system of a chatbot that's doing something and then bringing all the data of what it does back is, I mean, this is the future of work. I think this is absolutely, like, I'm saying it here that this is, and I mean you've said it too, and Chad has said it too. Like I think we've all sort of said like this is what these are the inklings of experiments that are going to be turning into what these platforms will be encouraging companies to build out, right? And I think that is, all things aside, this is going to be a brand new, era of like how we even read data coming up, right? Is that there'll be a chatbot giving it to you in little pieces. If you want, you can go to the dashboard, but the chatbot will be really good at highlighting, so your information is delivered faster. Obviously through like CRM systems, we're going to have robotic process automation, literally like running the show too. And you'll be able to, if you want, you'll be able to see that show, right? Like today sort of showed, that you can actually watch what your automation process is doing. And this could be really interesting too, right? This could have interesting like potential of people refining and polishing their automation processes really well by having a very transparent view of it and being able to do things straight from the context that they work in, right? Rather than having to go out of their way and spend a day trying to figure out how to do things. So this is huge right now. This is something that I think we're going to just keep like talking about and keep building upon. Certainly the cybersecurity thing is something that I recommend to like the audience, the greater audience out there to keep an eye out on, because I think IT chatbots that do IT delivery or like IT stuff are basically they're starting to come back. Like I am starting to see some Slack bots that are coming in again that are doing some really cool stuff. I think there was a Slackbot company that got acquired recently. I can't remember. I think it was by Atlassian. I completely forgot the name, but they were doing something that I believe was more DevOps related. And there's, shout out to this company called CTO.ai, which is doing like a shared command line in Slack. And I'm certain coming from Microsoft Teams too.
That's
So
dope.
it's really dope. It's really dope. Yeah. So there's something in the water, right? And it's going to come in different industries, and it's going to come from different use cases that COVID has sort of, pushed along a little bit, right? Everyone, Twitter's going full-time remote. Like we didn't even really talk about remote work and chatbots. We have before though, but just to give